Cool, so I'm going to make a video about the music industry, and I've not thought about this too much. It's somewhat unscripted, and it feels weird having a camera right here, but it looks better than being anywhere else. And I wanted to make it about content and the whole musical social media sort of world. In the spirit of this video, which will, if you listen and watch, hopefully you will go on to understand. I'm not going to edit this, so it's going to be a little bit, it's a bit scatterbrained maybe, but hang in there. I think there's some good points and you can debate that for yourselves. So I've been sort of making guitar content, and I know lots of people that have been for quite a long time. And there's this kind of, what's the word? Not stereotype, but like idea that as a musician nowadays you have to do lots of things. You have to be like a social media manager, you've got to be a business person, like your own little record label, or an influencer or whatever. You've got to do all this stuff around making music, which, you know, I can see where that's come from, because you've got to stand out, right? You've got to, whether you want to be in like a band or a session player or whatever, you've got to do something to kind of stand above the crowd. And I hear a lot of musicians complaining, and kind of rightly so, but I just want to put a different spin on this. I hear a lot of musicians complaining that that they're not happy about having to do all of this stuff. And I think there's this, I don't know who musicians are necessarily complaining at, because, you know, I understand the complaint itself. I've made this complaint a lot of times, and I think it's somewhat valid, but there's this idea that, okay, you have to do all these things to stand out as a musician. You know, you've got to do all these other things above and beyond just, you know, being good at whatever you do. And I kind of think us musicians actually are more probably to blame than the labels, the businesses, whatever. Which might seem a bit critical, but hear me out. You know, labels nowadays and management, as far as I'm aware, I'm no expert in this, but as far as I can tell, they want to see a band whose, you know, social media is popping off, they've got following, they've got X amount of plays on this, that and the other, who've essentially done a lot of the heavy lifting for them. And I think the reason is that, you know, back when bands used to just be bands, you could stand out by running the business side well, or by being a really good marketer. You know, it would be a way of maybe making your band or your music stand out above the crowd. But obviously what's happened is some people have, you know, over the years realised that, and more people realise that, and it's become a bit of a competition now where, you know, you've got to be X level of band manager or whatever, or kind of social media, this, that and the other, to stand above the next musician. And it's just created this cycle where the standard has just risen and risen and risen, and we're now at a point where everyone has to meet a certain criteria supposedly to succeed. And I kind of think, what if we all just stopped? What if every musician just stopped doing all of this? Like, stop trying to stand out by doing everything other than music. You know, suddenly we see an environment where the music is the only bar that is set, because currently there's a social media bar, there's like a professionalism bar that you have to sort of step over. There's loads of criteria that I now feel like you sort of have to meet. And I just think, what if we were just stopped? Like, if we were just stopped trying to compete on this bullshit kind of thing that we're not really trying to do anyway, and just wrote music and just played it. And, you know, if we made content when we wanted to make content, not just because we feel we have to every day or every week or every 3 times a week, whatever. You know, like I'm making this video now because I want to make this video. I don't feel any compulsion to. Well, I kind of do, I guess, but like, I'm just making it because this is why I'm just talking to the camera. I'm just making it because I think it's interesting. If we all just made stuff when we wanted to, I think the playing field would be a much nicer place to play on, if that makes sense. I've written some notes here because I don't want to forget anything that I wanted to talk about. Like one of the, I guess the main point I was making was about sort of self-reflection among musicians. Like, what if we did just stop? But the other thing that I kind of was thinking about was like a lot of the content that I see as well, because of this, it just isn't valuable to me. I hate to say this because I'm friends with a lot of like, and I admire a lot of musical like content creators, and I have a podcast where I've chatted to quite a few, and I think they make some really cool stuff. But at the same time, when I'm scrolling through Instagram or looking at my YouTube, discover whatever it is, your front like homepage, I kind of think, how much of this actually brings like value to me, you know? And the answer is not much. Like some of it, and the irony is, I think there are people out there who really want to create content. They really want to create like some sort of, they just enjoy it. I've seen YouTubers talk about where they just enjoy making guitar content. Like people like Ola England or something, or, you know, like I get the impression he just likes making what he makes, and he's got his musical endeavors, but I think he just likes doing that, so he does it. Or like Craig Reynolds, he has the Downbeat podcast, like I get the impression he just likes doing that, you know. So people like that, in terms of content, I don't want them to stop existing. But what I do want to kind of, not cease to exist, I guess, but see less of, is musicians trying to be something else. Because now all I'm seeing is just a completely oversaturated market of content that's just there for the sake of being there. And I feel the need now to contribute to that. And it kind of is rubbish, because I don't want to do it. Like, I just don't, you know, think of, okay, if you're a musician, I guess ask yourself, if I could plan my ideal day, you know, no obligations, nothing, I can just do what I want, how high up the list would making a funny guitar video be on a day-to-day basis? Or like a, you know, like some show-off kind of Instagram reel? Like, you might do it every now and again, don't get me wrong. I'm not calling for like a whole cease to exist of sort of all Instagram content. I don't want that to all just stop. Because every now and again I think I have an idea and I'm like, I quite like to just kind of share that because it's cool or it's different, you know. Whether it's like an interesting take or like a little guitar tutorial that I think might provide some value to people. But I feel like if we all just stopped chipping in when we feel like we have to, suddenly the space would open up for things that actually merit being there, which I might be being a bit idealistic. I don't think this will happen, which is sad, but maybe it will, because maybe I feel quite jaded with the whole content creation thing. I certainly feel an obligation to do it. I do a podcast, and a big thing that kind of puts me off doing that is making all the Instagram reels around it. So I think I'm going to rethink how I approach that. And the same with music, is when I'm writing things, I'm kind of always thinking, oh, well, I want to share a bit of this on Instagram. Not because I actually want to share it, because I feel like I should. So I'm thinking I'm going to reevaluate how I approach content, because I don't think... I don't want to just contribute to the noise, you know. And I'd like to try and find success as a musician without all of that. Because an important question to ask is like, okay, do I see myself creating content in 40 years' time? Well, the world's going to be very different then, but, you know, assuming things pan out in vaguely the way I want them to, I don't see myself close to retirement making Instagram reels, you know. I don't want to do that. I don't even see myself doing it beyond the point where I feel it's necessary. Like, it feels necessary right now, because I've got to build my music career and all that. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to do that. I don't see myself doing that in even 10 years' time, even less. In an ideal world, I just wouldn't do it. So I think, well, why build a whole following around that? I mean, okay, I think I'm back. I don't know what just happened. I said I wasn't going to edit this, and then my camera messed up. Some thumbs up thing came up and it froze my camera. I don't know what the fuck was going on with that. Yeah, so a point I was making was that I've seen so many musicians create careers around everything other than writing music, and all they want to do is write music. So they've just built a career around something they don't want to do. And I understand it. I'm not being too critical. And of course, there's going to be some crossover in that fan base. They're going to be interested in music. So if you make music content, there's a good chance that you put some music out and they might show an interest. But I don't think that crossover is as big as people think. It exists, obviously, but I don't think it's quite as substantial as people say that it is. you know, I've seen quite a lot of musicians where they have 100 and something or hundreds of thousands of followers on their Instagram, but then their music doesn't get the same reception. You know, and that's not me. I'm not being too critical. I understand it. Ultimately, it's the reception their music's getting is still more than zero, which is possibly what it would have got if they didn't have any followers. So it's not like this stuff can't help. But I just think, what if we all just stopped doing it? That's my main motto of today, I guess, is like, what if we all just stopped creating this stuff? What else did I write there? Oh yeah, so I said, or I was thinking, an important question is, what if every single piece of content you saw on Instagram or YouTube was a piece of content that someone genuinely wanted to put there, rather than they felt compelled to put there? This applies wider than just the music industry, or more widely than just the music industry. You know, how much content do you see beyond just music? You think, that no one wanted to put that there. They just put it there because they felt they had to. It would be a better space for creatives and musicians. And suddenly everything you saw would be actually valuable. And ironically, you'd probably want to spend more time on things like Instagram, because you'd be scrolling through it and you'd constantly be being bombarded with things that actually you like and that are useful and that you can tell someone's actually put their time into because they want to. If every piece of content I saw was replaced with a bit of music or something that really genuinely someone is very passionate about, that'd be great. I wouldn't feel so much regret after scrolling on Instagram or whatever. So I guess this is just my collection of thoughts. I'm trying to think if I missed anything. I don't think I've missed anything from what I wrote down. Yeah, I guess my overall... Yeah, I think that's everything. I'm not going to rant too much longer. I don't want this to be too long. What is it? It says 13 minutes and 42, but that's minus the edit. So I'm not going to rant much, well, at all longer. I think that is all my thoughts. And like I said, in the spirit of this, I'm probably not going to edit anything. You know, I'd be interested to hear anyone chip in their ideas, what they think. And like I said, I'm not looking to offend any content creators. You know, if you feel this rings true, then let me know. If you think I'm being an arsehole, you can let me know as well. I'm sure that will get plenty of attention. So do that. Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to rethink how I do all this stuff, I think, because I'm bored of it. So yeah, that's me signing off. Cheers.